All right, so it's been a couple weeks. I really haven't didn't make a video last weekend. Didn't really have anything too excited going on. Um, Pretty much just kind of getting some lines situated. But a good update: the wiring harness has arrived. So as you can see, I spent a little bit this morning, um, kind of running that and getting it where it pretty much is going to be. Mounted the TCM, ECM, got those plugged in. I don't really have anything kind of cinched down and locked yet. I still have all the red tabs up. Just kind of trying to feed everything, get everything where it's going to sit. Um, yeah, so that is a nice big step. I've got to end up pulling some of the stuff because I kind of got some stuff ran a little backwards. This line I want on the other side of that, so be a little bit of fishing, and then once I kind of get it in its final location, I can see if there's anywhere I've got to kind of cinch it, zip tie it, um, whatever to kind of finalize it. I did put the AC line back in. Got that pretty much bolted in, ready. I did put new seals. I mounted all the fuel lines. This one's new. I did buy a new one for that, but for some reason they sent me one that did not work. It might be for a 6.2. I'm not too sure. Might be an LT4. I don't know. All I know is it was a little bit too long, and I couldn't get it to mount, so I reused the old one. Let's hope that doesn't leak. They recommend you replace these two when you take them off, but I've heard people reusing them and not having a problem. But yeah, so got to get this kind of fished and finalized. I do have the hard lines for the fuel ran. This goes down to near the transmission. I'll show that here in a second once we go under. And then I have the evaporator down there. That's the hard lines from the Silverado. I'll kind of go over what I'm doing down at the bottom. But I have the harness kind of ran here. I'll have to finalize some stuff down there. I've kind of got it just kind of sitting in place. This is where it connects to the body, and that's where it is going into the fuse box. So this is where the fuse box is. I don't have the top part. That's actually where all the fuses are, where these plug into. I was just kind of test fitting everything. Just kind of, making sure everything's in its place. They are mounting. So they ran... I wasn't entirely sure where current was going to run the vacuum pump, but they have the plug over here. I think I could fish it underneath this and have it come out on this side. And it looks like I'll have enough room where I'm going to try to make a bracket to attach the vacuum pump here. That'll put it pretty much in the same location as the factory V6 location, so it'll kind of help when I plumb that back up to the booster. I have the lines removed right now, but yeah, so that's kind of a work in progress. Once I kind of get some of this stuff situated and kind of get those lines, then I'm planning on mounting the intake manifold and put the sound isolator down in there. Got all this stuff kind of ran. This is for the alternator, mass airflow sensor. Let's see what else. I did mount the headers, or the manifolds, sorry. These are the Silverado ones. So I ordered a set of AFE twisted metal, or twisted, so I don't remember the full name of it. But I ordered a header Y-pipe combo for Silverado, and they look like they were going to be very similar to factory, and they're like, I mean, them things stick out like probably about this far. There's no way it's going to clear the steering. So I went ahead and I just mounted the factory Silverado. Pretty sure that's going to clear everything once I finalize this location, but we'll get there. I did put new gaskets, and I am running ARP manifold bolts. That way, if I do have to take them off, they're not going to be rusted and be a pain in the ass and end up breaking them in the head. But yeah, and then I did have to buy a new one of these. The one that I got with the motor was actually broken. So I have that on there just because it was easier to put this on when I ran the wiring harness back there. So I went ahead and put this on. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the top of the motor since the last video. And I know I keep saying but it's because I'm trying to move around while I film here. So you can see I've got my AN lines. I found a place that sells colored ones. So I'm running, kind of help me situate everything. So blue is going to be my oil. Red is the transmission, because red is what the color transmission fluid is. But as you can see back here, I've made a bracket. It's not finalized yet, but you can see I've got a hose mount right there. It's not tight, but that'll hold one of the hoses, and then I've got some hose separators to keep them together so that kind of keeps it off from rubbing on anything. And then I'll be running a rib cert on this side, and then that'll hold the transmission lines, and then everything will run through here. I have the oil filter. Let me pull this lower radiator hose out of the way. So I have the oil filter ran right here. This ended up turning into a pain in my ass, if I must say so myself. So I'm running Kings, and with the Kings you have to run this relocation bracket for the sway bar. So the sway bar is actually pushed forward, probably about a ½ inch. With the radiator in, it doesn't leave me a lot of room to kind of get in here, but I do have some room here. I've got this pretty tight right now. Let me see if I can. Need my other hand. But as you can see, you can pull the filter off, put it in, a little bit of a gap, but that's gonna work. I had a hell of a time getting these mounted, trying to get this kind of tilted correctly without, or I should say, with giving me enough clearance for the radiator. So the radiator sits right here, and there's some lines that kind of come. But I have everything kind of ran towards here. We'll go underneath, and I'll show you how I have this ran on the underside. Let's come over to the radiator here. So this is the old radiator I'm just using from mock-up. So as you can see, I am running the factory transmission cooler line from the Colorado that goes into the AC condenser. So on the Colorado, the trans cooler is actually part of the AC condenser. And so I've got the hard line, that way it clips into the actual radiator shroud. And then I'm running a hard line to AN adapter. And then there's my AN. I don't have the lines ran yet because I'm still finalizing their location so I can get the lengths finalized. And then here's the other side. So there's the hard line, clips into the radiator shroud. There's my AN, my hard line to AN adapter, and then my AN fitting. And then you can see down there I still have a AN fitting for the radiator because I'm still finalizing that. So as you can see here, you can see this. That's your transmission cooler. And then from there down is your AC condenser. So anybody that's curious, that's how it's ran. And then of course the radiator behind. So I think that's pretty much everything from the top, at least since the last video. I should have went back and watched the last video because I don't remember where exactly I left off, but I think we're all right. So let me go underneath. Kind of show you what we've got going on here. So, trying to remember last video whether I had kind of shown my different bypass I had to run. I don't care, I'll talk about it again. So I had to switch to a down facing bypass because I couldn't go off to the side. So now I have my down facing bypass. I did not want to run 45s, which is what I would have to run to clear the oil pan. So what I ended up doing is I just got a AN10 to AN10 coupler right there. I've got two of them. I just mounted one because this one here I was worried about clearancing this. So the big thing is you've got to make sure that you have this tightened and in a good enough location that they come straight down like that. That way I'm not running into any interference, because if you end up with this over there, then it's not going to clear the front diff. And so this will go with the 90, and we'll allow the lines to sit nice above the cross member. And then I'll have to come underneath the oil pan, and then it'll kind of run this way. This one, kind of show you. Got a little stuck here. There we go. So we'll be kind of running them like this. And then I've also bought some hydraulic hose protector. I'll show that in a second, and I'm going to loop this when it kind of runs through there. That way, anywhere it kind of touches something, if I do hit bumps, it'll be protected. All right, and so back here, there's our transmission cooler lines. I went back with the Silverado mount. Comes to hard lines, and then I have it hard line to AN adapter, and then there's the AN lines. That's why I have this bracket, because once these are kind of mounted, it can clear the oil drain plug and won't be in the way. So we're doing good there. There's, you can see some of the connectors for the harness. I've got the passenger side manifold also installed with the gasket, and everything's torqued, so we're good there. That's the wiring I've got to pull up and reroute, but I have some of the wiring ran down there to the transmission and to the transfer case, so ready to kind of finalize that. Still waiting on my spacer idea to shim this up. I think I discussed that in the driveshaft video. I'm going to try to spacer this entire back section at least a 1/4 of an inch. I'm pretty sure it's going to work, but just need to get those spacers that I ordered. They were supposed to be here by this weekend, but they ended up, I don't know, they ended up going a completely different way. But yeah, so that's a pretty good summary of kind of where we're at right now. Making some good progress. I ended up painting that black where I ended up chipping all this up. So I smoothed that out, smoothed out all the chips, painted that black, and then once you put the kind of cover piece in front of the radiator and the AC condenser, it should cover that up, and you won't even really notice it's not crush anymore. All right, so another quick thing. So I ended up having to take off the shift mechanism. The Silverado has this bracket here that holds the fuel lines up. So I'm going to have to mount that. So if you remember from my other video, this is the bracket for the shift mechanism from the Colorado. So that's what I'm running. But as you can see, it's not going to mount with that. So I'm going to end up cutting this little part off. I think this just held the breather line, but this bracket up here actually has a hole where you can zip tie the breather line up there. So I'll just run the breather line that way. We'll hack this off, and then this will mount, and I can put that back on and get the shifting situated. My only concern is that, as you could see, I don't have this pushed in all the way, but there is a lot of space right here, and we're hitting right there. I think it would be all right kind of hitting that, because this is just some heat wrap. I have that's the hard lines from the Silverado, but my main concern is the front drive shaft. That's going to come through here, and I'm not exactly sure where it's going to be in relation to this. I've already got the hardline to AN adapters on here. You can't reuse these. The ferrule or olives that come with these, the place I bought these off of, they only sell the replacement ones for the actual fitting to hose. They don't sell replacement ones for the hardline adapters. So if I end up having to cut it farther up here, I'm going to have to buy another set of these. So I'm kind of holding off on that. These things are about $15 a piece. So I'd rather kind of wait. I did send off my front drive shaft. I'm working with, I'll go ahead and say now, I've been working with Adams drive shafts. I've been hearing about them on Bleep and Jeep. I've been in quite a few discussions with them. They are shipping me a different slip yoke for here that should hopefully be smaller to clear the cross member without having to cut it up. So I'll get that hopefully next week, and we can kind of test fit that, make sure that's going to actually work for this application. I don't know if I ever showed, so these are my fuel fitting to AN adapters that I've got on the Colorado side. But anyways, yeah, going back to the front drive shaft, so they're sending me a different type of U-joint setup for here, so see if we can clear this. It's actually smaller around, but stronger because it's a CV style joint rather than a U-joint. But we'll see that when we get there. I did take off my pinion yoke for the front before people start saying stuff. I still have not rebuilt that, so I will be rebuilding that, and I will be re-gearing that. I pulled that off to get some dimensions because Adams was going to try to see if we could switch that to a U-joint style, sort of like the rear, for those not familiar. That is a U-joint style pinion yoke. They have nothing in their database. This is similar. This is actually the transfer case side. Those that don't know, the Colorado kind of has this bolt-in drive shaft. It's just a bolt flange. They can't find anything in their database that actually gives them any specs on that. So I shipped them my front drive shaft. They're going to make an adapter and basically adapt the front drive shaft that they're going to build me. I'm going with a steel, so we'll work with that. That's why I haven't ran any fuel lines. I'm kind of waiting. Hopefully they don't have a huge turnaround time and they can get me the drive shaft somewhat quick. We'll see. I am getting them to build me a rear drive shaft as well. I'm going to go with a steel drive shaft. So I'll basically be getting a front and rear steel drive shaft from them. I still got to take... It's a little cheaper if I give them that yoke. So I still need to play with that, pull that out, put it on the press, and get that yoke off. And then get that sent to them, and we'll get a steel drive shaft in here. And then we'll have a steel front. Once I get the front, I can make sure the fuel lines will clear, run the fuel lines, and then drop the front diff, kind of clean up some stuff above it, make sure all of our wiring is not going to hit anything. Tidy that up, but once I get that and get the fuel lines ran while I'm still tidying stuff up and rebuilding the front diff, we can work on software and hopefully get a first start. So we're getting there. Let me get back out here. But yeah, we're getting there, guys. My goal is to hopefully I'd like to have everything done, at least to start it, by the end of May. That's getting pretty optimistic as far as getting the drive shafts, but if they don't have a huge turnaround, that may be feasible. So while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to finish up installing the wiring harness and getting the lines ran here for the oil transmission. Hopefully have that finalized, hopefully tomorrow. It's Saturday today. But we'll get that finalized. We'll get... we'll get the wiring kind of somewhat finalized. And we'll go from there. Just going over the exhaust again. So, yeah, here was the exhaust. Another thing, these cats are way too big. This is 3-inch piping. That's just going to be way too big. So I'm going to have to go to probably 2.5 piping. So I'll probably just buy all the piping and I'll have to basically custom make an exhaust. Yeah, I'm also upgrading the brakes. So I've got some R1 concepts, cross-drilled slotted rotors. I know people are probably going to give me crap about that, but I've ran that on multiple cars. I like the way it looks, so I don't really care what you think. And got some better pads, but it should help stop a little bit better. These are the headers As you can see, they kind of come out. I thought these things would basically turn right as soon as they came out, and you can see they come way too far out. So I've got these up for sale. They won't return them because I had to open the box to make sure they'd fit, and they'll only accept returns if it's unopened. And if I do return it with them opened, they charge me like a ridiculous restocking fee, so I'd rather just try to sell them locally. You can see here, this is going to be tight. I'll kind of figure that out as I get into the exhaust. You can't even turn that right now, but if I jack up the transmission, I can actually do something with that. But yeah, let's go over here. I'll show you the, so this is the hydraulic hose protector that I bought. Really good reviews on Amazon. I can't even find the end of it. There we go. But yeah, we'll loop that around the line, put a little bit of electrical tape to kind of keep it tight, and anywhere that is going to hit, that should give us some good protection. Let's see, I thought I had something else over here I was going to show. Yeah, so this is the vacuum pump mount. I'll end up modifying that. I'll show that. There's the vacuum pump. Still haven't done anything with the AC yet. We'll work on that later. I've got the fuse box. Since I did run the Colorado kind of accessory location, looking at our engine here, so you know the alternator on the Colorado sits right here, and here is the power line. So for those that don't know, when you do a swap, you're going to have to run all new power lines. So this is the power line for the alternator. And the nice thing is I'm going to pull this off, but because the fuse box is still in the same location, this runs to the front of the fuse box. If you don't know that, the kind of little front box that you can take off that's not part of the fuses, that power line that goes right, or the power cable that goes right there, is actually the alternator cable to charge the truck. So I'll go ahead and probably pull that off tomorrow and get that ready to run. I will have to run a starter cable. I haven't even gotten into that yet, but I'll have to order some heavy gauge cable. I'll probably run it across the starter on the V8 will be over on this side, and as you can see, the Colorado, it is on this side, buried under the engine mount heat shield. So this is actually the starter cable, and I don't think this will be long enough. Actually, it may. I don't know. I may pull that off since I have it. I may pull that off and give it a try. We'll see if I can maybe run it across. Well, on the V8, we'll run it across the back and down. And we'll see how close it is. I don't know if it'll work, though. It's a pretty good ways in the engine bay. But I'll work on that. I'll measure that, see what gauge it is. Do a similar gauge, because that actually goes back here. And we'll have to run it all the way down there. But hey, maybe we'll get lucky and that'll reach. But now that I'm looking at it, I don't think it will. But Hey, you never know. But yeah, that's where we're at now. May not seem like a lot, but I guess it was kind of a lot going on. But oh yeah, I'd also have some heater hose cable heater hose coming to start kind of figuring out my routing right there. I'll be using these. The ones I bought actually have a molded 90, so it should just pop right out. That's not too big of a deal. But yeah, I think we're moving along pretty good. I'm hoping my end of May cranking this thing up is not being too bad to where, I'm kind of hurrying things along. But I think, we don't need the AC to run it, or at least start it. Probably could put the alternator in. I'll put the alternator in once I get all these lines done and I'm done running stuff through there. But yeah, I don't think I really have to run anything else. Fuel, figuring out the software. Once I get the fuse box back in and I kind of get the wiring tidied up with the intake manifold, I'll probably put the battery back in. That way I can power everything. Then I can use the OBD2 to get the laptop hooked up and start going over things. So yeah, I think we're sitting pretty good. Like I said, if anybody's got any questions or wants to see anything specific, if you have a V6 Colorado and you want to see anything specific on the engine, you want to know where something runs, or you want to know what something looks like, shoot it in the comments and I'll cover it in the next video. All right, until next time, catch you guys later.